Charles Thomson Rees Wilson was a Scottish scientist who made a big discovery in the world of science. He was born on February 14, 1869, in the small town of Glencorse, Scotland. Wilson grew up with a love for learning and nature. He was curious about the world around him and wanted to understand how things worked. Little did he know, his curiosity would lead to an important discovery that helped scientists learn more about tiny particles, like atoms and electrons. Wilson was the second child in his family. His parents were not very rich, but they valued education and encouraged their children to learn. From a young age, Charles showed that he was smart and eager to study. He loved reading books and spending time outdoors, where he could observe the world. As a child, he was very interested in science, and he often asked many questions about how things worked. After finishing his early education in Scotland, Wilson went to the University of Edinburgh to study physics. The University of Edinburgh was a place where many important scientists studied, and Wilson was excited to learn more about the world of science. He was very good at his studies and graduated with honors. After he graduated, Wilson began working in different scientific fields. He worked at the Royal College of Science in London, and later at other universities and research institutions. During this time, Wilson became very interested in studying the atmosphere and the tiny particles that exist in it. At that time, scientists were trying to understand what was happening in the sky. They wanted to know more about the invisible particles, such as atoms and molecules, that made up the air we breathe. To do this, they needed new tools and new ways of seeing these tiny things. Wilson was determined to find a way to see the invisible particles that were so important to science. In the early 20th century, Wilson began working on a new type of tool that would help scientists observe tiny particles. This tool was called the cloud chamber. The cloud chamber is an important device in the study of physics and chemistry, and it helped scientists understand how tiny particles moved and interacted with each other. A cloud chamber is a sealed container that has a special environment inside it. The chamber is filled with a gas, usually air, that is cooled down to very low temperatures. Inside the chamber, a special vapor is also used to make tiny droplets of water form. When a charged particle, such as an electron, passes through the chamber, it leaves a trail of droplets behind it. These droplets are tiny, but they are visible to the human eye. The idea behind the cloud chamber was to make the invisible paths of particles visible. When a particle passes through the chamber, the water vapor condenses along its path, creating a trail of tiny droplets. This trail is called a track. By studying these tracks, scientists could learn about the behavior of the particles and how they move through space. Wilson's cloud chamber was a big breakthrough because it allowed scientists to see the paths of tiny particles for the first time. Before this, scientists could only guess where the particles were and how they moved. But with the cloud chamber, they could now watch the particles in action. Wilson's discovery helped scientists understand the behavior of atoms and molecules much better. Let's take a closer look at how the cloud chamber works. Inside the chamber, the air is cooled down to a very low temperature, often just below freezing. A special liquid, such as alcohol, is also used to make the chamber colder. The chamber is sealed to keep the environment inside very controlled. When a charged particle, like an electron or a proton, passes through the chamber, it interacts with the air. This interaction causes the air to condense into tiny droplets. These droplets form a visible trail that follows the path of the particle. The trail is like a little cloud, which is why the device is called a cloud chamber. Scientists can study the tracks left by the particles to understand more about how they move. The tracks show information about the speed, direction, and energy of the particles. This was a new and exciting way for scientists to study the behavior of very tiny particles that could not be seen before. The cloud chamber also helped scientists learn about the behavior of cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are high-energy particles that come from space. Before Wilson's discovery, scientists had no way of studying these cosmic rays. But with the cloud chamber, they could see how the particles from space interacted with the atmosphere on Earth. This was a major step forward in the study of physics. Wilson's discovery of the cloud chamber had a big impact on the world of science. It allowed scientists to make new discoveries and better understand the world of tiny particles. His work helped to prove that atoms and molecules were real, and that they could be studied in great detail. The cloud chamber also helped scientists understand more about radioactivity. In the early 20th century, scientists were just beginning to learn about radioactive materials. With the cloud chamber, they could see the paths of particles that came from radioactive materials. This helped scientists understand how radioactive materials released energy and how they interacted with other substances. Wilson's work also played a key role in the discovery of new types of particles. For example, the cloud chamber was used to study the behavior of positrons, which are particles that have the opposite charge of electrons. The discovery of positrons was an important moment in the history of physics, because it showed that there were more particles in the universe than scientists had previously thought. Wilson's cloud chamber changed the way scientists studied particles. It became an important tool in physics and chemistry for many years. Scientists around the world used the cloud chamber to make new discoveries, and it helped them better understand the universe. In 1927, Charles Thomson Rees Wilson received the Nobel Prize in Physics for his work on the cloud chamber. This was a great honor, and it showed just how important his discovery was to the world of science. The Nobel Prize is one of the highest honors a scientist can receive, and Wilson's achievement was recognized by scientists everywhere. Even after his discovery, Wilson continued to work as a scientist. He became a professor at the University of Cambridge in England, where he taught and mentored many students. Wilson's work was highly respected, and he inspired many young scientists to follow in his footsteps. Wilson passed away in 1959 at the age of 90, but his legacy lives on. His invention of the cloud chamber changed the field of physics, and it continues to be an important tool for scientists today. Wilson's curiosity and determination to understand the world around him helped shape the future of science. Wilson's story reminds us of the power of curiosity and the importance of asking questions. Like many great scientists, he was driven by a desire to understand the world and to make new discoveries. His work changed the way we look at the universe, and his legacy will continue to inspire scientists for generations to come.